Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for your willingness to serve at Presbytery Point this summer. I think I probably should start by introducing myself. My name is Wayne Potter, and I am the new director for Presbytery Point Camp. I've had the privilege of serving for the last 13 years or so as the family ministry director in Elk Rapids, Michigan, and so I'm familiar maybe to some of you within the presbytery. Following this training, there is going to be a 10 question questionnaire that must be completed in order for you to have completed your training for the summer camping season. And this training is a requirement for everyone who will be on site at camp this summer, whether you're a paid staff or a volunteer. So, with that said, let's uh, let's walk through this training over the next several minutes here together and just be sure that we're all on the same page for what we're looking for at camp. We're going to talk about how to keep ourselves as well as the camper's safety, how to be consistent in what we're doing, how to care for campers, some of our expectations at camp, and 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 how to just protect the camp itself as well as everyone else that's there for the summer camp and for the sessions. Um, I want you to know right from the start that if there's anything that you're unsure about at camp or you need help with or you need further explanations, please contact me. Please let me know. I may not have all of the answers for you, but I will find out what needs to be done or the best way to handle things, or I will get an answer for you. But it's really important that we not make any assumptions based on what we feel like or even past experiences so that we're all on the same page as we're working together this summer. Some of you may be new to Presbytery Point Camp. This may be your first time serving there, and I think it's important that we understand what our mission is. So the mission statement for Presbytery Point is to bring people together to learn and grow in the beauty of God's creation, reaching out and welcoming all to join together in faith, fellowship, and recreation. And I think the big thing about camp is it's a place to see um, the commandments that Jesus laid out in Matthew 22 when he has, those religious leaders coming to him and saying, what is the most important thing? And his response is the most important thing is that we love God and that we love people. And at Presbytery Point, we want that to be what we are known for. It's a place where God is honored and glorified and people experience the love of God, but they also find acceptance and love for themselves. So that's what we want to be known for. Camp is going to be about faith and growing in our knowledge of God, our relationship with God, and that's something that we're not going to shy away from. It's going to be a place of fellowship where we're going to develop friendships that that in some cases may last a lifetime, and that's great. We love to have a place where people can come and grow in their relationships with each other as well as relationship with God. Place camp is going to be a place of recreation and fun. And I hope we all know that place. It's going to be a place where we can come and just have fun and play together as well. Um, Camp is going to be a place of growth, spiritual growth, emotional growth, personal growth, relational growth, and so much more. Um, and um, and I hope we all take that serious as well, that people can come and grow and find community as well. And that's what we want camp to be about, learning how to be a part of a group and a part of something bigger than ourselves. Um, every interaction that we have with campers and with other staff at camp is important. And I want us all to take that very serious, that everything we say and everything we do um, is important. And we want to model Christ in our actions. Um, we as a staff are the role models for the campers, for the children that will be there for the different sessions throughout the summer. And I want us to um, take that role very important as we're looking at those opportunities that we have. Um, our objective and our philosophy at camp is that we want to build confidence in the children that are coming. We want to build a sense of belonging in the children that are coming, and that they find a place that um, they feel safe and they feel welcome. We want a place that spiritual growth is a priority, that people are introduced to Jesus maybe for the first time, a place where people can take that next step in their spiritual journey. Um, People of all ages, and maybe that's even for some of us that are on staff, that this can be a time of for us to continue our growth and development in Christ. So um, we want to take that very serious. We want this to be a place, camp to be a place where positive memories are created. We don't want camp to be a place where people experience anything negative. And we can't control all of the variables, but we can control um, our what we are responsible for individually and creating that atmosphere for the campers. And so we want to take that um, to heart as we're interacting. It's really important that all campers and all children feel safe, and even beyond that, that everyone there, staff, children, students, campers, everyone will like feel safe while they're at camp, and we really have to make that um, one of our significant priorities. One of the primary things that we do is that camp needs to be a place where people are safe. Um, Camp needs to be a place where people are included, and we are not going to exclude anyone at camp, regardless of anything. Um, and that's a major value that we hold to at Presbytery Point Camp, as well as the Presbyterian Church, that that we want all people to feel safe and welcome and included. And so that is something that we will convey and we will place as a high value at camp. Um, Camp is a place for children to come and try new things and experience new things. I have a long background in camp ministry, and I know for some kids they come and maybe they've never gone fishing before, or maybe they've never gone canoeing before, and we just want to encourage children to experience new things and embrace new opportunities. Um, for some of these children, this is going to be their first time staying away from home and experiencing um, an opportunity like this. And so we want to encourage them to make friends, and we also want to honor that some of them may be apprehensive at first, and it's important that we honor that, and as well as encouraging them, as well as spiritual growth. And we want to model that in everything that we do at camp, that we are going to represent Christ, and we're gonna show children what it means to grow into spiritual maturity. Um, for those of you that haven't been to camp before, and I will admit, Presbytery Point is relatively new to me. I've only been there a handful of times. When you arrive, we will go through an introduction to the camp itself and help you understand where the important buildings are, such as the director's cabin you'll find when you first come in, and that's where I will be living for the summer, and where you can reach me. And contact me when you first arrive at camp if I'm not in the dining hall. And the dining hall is the other building that you will see when you first come in. And we'll go through and make sure we're oriented where the dining hall is, where your cabin is, um, where the nurse's station is, so that you're familiar and you know and you can feel comfortable leading children through the session, the camp session, and knowing where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be there, as well as the schedule. We'll go over when meal times are and when quiet hours are, when we expect lights to be out, and where the different activities are and how we rotate through those. So we'll go through that when you first arrive at camp. Some things I need everyone to understand, though, as you're arriving at camp, is that being on time matters. It's part of living in community. I've done a lot of camp ministry as well as children's and youth ministry over the last 30 plus years. And it's something that um, you as staff are going to have to lead the way on. Children, it's a struggle sometimes for them to understand why they can't be on their own agenda and do their own things. But part of being in community is that we all need to be on the same page and be where we are supposed to be and be there when we are supposed to be there. And as well as those of you that are maybe serving in different roles, such as the kitchener and helping out with some of the different activities. It's real important that you're there when you're supposed to be there to keep things moving smoothly. If not, myself or someone else is going to have to come and find you, and that just becomes very problematic. So we need you to be there when you're supposed to be there, ready to serve in the role that you are assigned. We are all going to be working as a team, and it's important that as a team, we are all pulling our part. Um, if you're unable to be somewhere when you're supposed to be there for some reason, or you're unable to fulfill your duty, I need to know about that. So please let me know as soon as possible if there's any reason at all that you're gonna have issues. If you're ill that day, if there's something going on, please let me know as soon as possible so we can plan accordingly for that. It's important that we understand that we are not just supervising children at Presbytery Camp. Um, we are creating an environment that we want kids to enjoy, or a community, a place where trust and belonging is emphasized, a place where spirituality and growth and our relationship with God is encouraged, and every one of us are going to contribute to that culture. And so all of us have to work together. All of us have to be on the same page and pulling on the same side of the rope in order for that environment to be established that we really are looking for. Um, we want to encourage as well as model for everyone, um, children and staff as well, the idea of kindness and patience as we're working with kids. It's really important that we avoid sarcasm, humiliation, pranks, burns, as kids love to call it, right? Favoritism. All of those things are things we want to avoid. Um, I came to faith myself at camp when I was 18 years old, and it set the course for the rest of my life. I pursued ministry based on my experience at camp, um, and have worked, um, as I mentioned, for over 30 years in vocational ministry. Um, at the same time, I have a family member that was very close to me that came to camp, and that was his first experience really with the church at all. And he had an extremely negative experience at camp, and he was the butt of some jokes and pranks, and he felt humiliated and really rejected at camp. And based on that, he made a determination, not just about camp, but faith in Christianity as a whole, and walked away and never wanted anything further to do with faith. And so I want us to never be a place where someone has that experience. And so it's really important that we model that in our own behavior and that we not allow children to do that. And I know that sometimes maybe that feels like a killjoy or or we're just having fun and we want children to have fun, but it just things get out of control very quickly. And so we're not gonna engage in pranks and sarcasm and burns and humiliation. We want to be known as a place of kindness and respect. Um, we want to be known as a place of inclusion and a place of emotional safety, in addition to physical safety. And that's going to be a really important attribute at Presbytery Point that we want to hold to. Um, our goal working with students is always correction and not punishment. We're wanting to guide those behaviors, and manage children's behaviors, but we're always looking to correct and not punish a child. We want to redirect things, and we want to be out in front of them. We want to prevent any form of escalation. We want to be um, intentional and proactive as we're working with children. And we want to be consistent across the board. We want all of the campers that are there to know what they're going to get and how they're going to be received and treated by all staff members. And so it's important that we're consistent in that, um, in the way that we correct behavior and redirect, um, and that we're intentional, and proactive with that. We're going to operate on a three strike system, and the first strike is going to be a warning and a redirection, and we're going to talk through those behaviors. The second strike is going to be a meeting and a phone call home. If there's persistent behaviors that a child is unwilling to refrain from. It's going to be a sit down meeting and a phone call home. And the third time, if we're continuing and having issues, we're going to have to look at possibly having a parent or guardian come and pick that child up and send them home and have them leave the session. So we're not going to tolerate disruptive behavior from children and things that make other campers feel unsafe. And we're not going to tolerate that from staff. And so we need to be on that same page that this is how we're going to operate, and we want to be out in front of all of those behaviors, and be very intentional about that. Things that will are non-negotiables are any form of violence. We're not going to tolerate any form of violence. I told you I've been in ministry for a long time, and the worst injury that I've ever witnessed firsthand took place at camp, and it was just two middle school boys playing around and roughhousing, and one of them put the other one in a full Nelson, and it looked relatively harmless, but upon doing that, he didn't realize that when he pushed the other boy's head forward, he had actually cut off blood flow, and the one boy was unconscious, and he let go of him and he fell face first onto a concrete floor and broke his nose and was injured very badly. We had to rush him to the hospital. Um, and it was all stemmed from what we would call just horsing around. It was 12-year-old boys being 12-year-old boys, and it was an extremely serious injury that resulted in that. And we're just not going to tolerate any form of violence or physical horseplay like that. We can't do that. We can't tolerate that. There will be no bullying at all for any reason. Um, in addition to in addition to working in youth ministry, I've driven school bus for many years, about 15 years, I guess now. And one of the things I always tell the kids on my bus is we're going to be known as the nice bus. We don't pick on each other. We're not going to bully each other. We create an atmosphere where none of that is tolerated, and that's going to extend to camp too. We're not going to have any hazing or racial slurs. We're no threatening behavior of any kind, and those are just non-negotiables that we're not going to tolerate um, at camp. Um, it's really important that when we're managing behaviors or even potential emergencies, that we as a staff stay calm. I mentioned that I drive school bus, and uh, a few years ago, um, we had an unfortunate incident where a brake line blew out on our school bus, and the result was that the bus itself actually caught on fire, and uh, and we had to pull over to the side of the road and evacuate the school bus, and that could be a pretty frightening experience for children. We had children on the bus that were as young as 4 years old, and that can be a really frightening experience. The bus is on fire. I had to get out and extinguish the fire and evacuate the children and manage all of this, and I'm by myself trying to manage all these different circumstances. And we stayed calm in that circumstance, and we got the children moved away from the bus, and we got the fire extinguished, and we got them loaded on a new bus. And the result of that is that today it's something that the children actually laugh about, and they talk about the bus being on fire. It was a bus tire, and so the children that were a part of that day still laugh and sing songs about the bus tire being on fire. And that's a product though of being calm in a very stressful situation, and in an emergency situation. And that's what I need you to understand, that we are um potentially going to experience things that are stressful, that could be some serious situations. So we need to remain calm as a staff, and deal with them appropriately, but not um out of fear, not out of a sense of chaos. It's really important that we never embarrass campers publicly, that we don't call them out or cause shame or embarrassment for a camper ever. Um, we we need to clearly state the expectations that we have of the students and the children at camp. Um, Clarity is really important. We don't want to leave any ambiguity about that. So it's important that you as staff, if you're in the kitchen, if you're serving as a lifeguard, if you're a counselor in a cabin, if you're leading crafts, that we communicate clearly, and we have clear boundaries and clear directions and clear understanding for the children that are there. Um, if we get to a situation where a child just does not want to participate in something, um, we'll work on coming up with an alternative activity. Or um, if there's just behaviors that are continuously disruptive for the rest of the cabin, we're going to look at ways that maybe we can redirect some of those behaviors and encourage something different. Um, we never want to make a child feel like they are bad. Um, and that is a really big value of mine personally, that we do not want children to feel shame, to feel ridicule. We don't know what situation these children are coming from, and and what they've experienced outside of camp, but we want camp to be a place where they feel loved and embraced, um, that they feel safe. And so we never want a child to walk away from an interaction with any of us feeling like they are bad. Um, there are some things that are absolutely going to be prohibited at camp. First and foremost is there is no form of corporal punishment. We can never place our hands on a child for to discipline them. That just cannot happen ever for any reason. Um, we're never going to withhold food or water or sleep or any basic human necessities. We're never going to withhold any of that for any reason from a child. We are never going to humiliate. We're never going to ridicule a child. Those are non-negotiables. We're never going to isolate a child and separate them from the rest of the group to punish them. Um, we may need to isolate in order to redirect some behavior. We may need to have a conversation with them, but that's not going to be a form of punishment where a child feels isolated or separated from the other children within the group. Um, it's really important also that we understand developmental needs. Depending on what week you're coming, we're dealing with a variety of age groups of children, and we really need to understand those needs as children are developing. For those of you that are taking part in elementary camp, um, kind of those ages around 7 to 9 years old, those children are going to need a lot of reassurance. Some of them, this is going to be their first time staying away from home, staying overnight, and this is going to be really big and really new to them. And so they may require a lot of reassurance. And I'm going to ask you to be that safe place for them. Those children are going to love a lot of games and imagination and creativity and there's a lot of things that you can do to encourage those children that don't require um, much more than just your imagination and just being creative and making things fun for them. It's really important for those of you working elementary camp to remember that those children have a very short attention span, and you may have to repeat yourself frequently. You may have to remind them of where to be and when to be there and what the expectations are frequently. But that's just a reality of where they are developmentally. And so just go into that with that understanding of being patient with them and just they may have a very short attention span and forget things. They're going to need a lot of structure. For those of you working with the elementary camp, they need a lot of intentionality and a lot of structure wherever they are. If it's in the cabin, if it's in crafts, if it's in the swimming area, we want to be intentional about creating structure for them throughout their time at camp. For those of you working with middle schoolers around the ages of like 10 to 12, um, they're looking for a little bit more independence. They're looking to kind of stretch their wings and feel that freedom. And maybe some of these children have been to camp before and they feel a little bit more emboldened and empowered. We still need to provide guidance for them and structure. Um, we need to help them understand how to interact safely with their peers and with other children, and that's something that they're growing into. As we mentioned, we want to we want to cut off any sense of harassing or um, any sense of burning each other. And we want them to understand how to have positive interactions with others. Um, these guys are going to love if you can create some excitement in that cabin or excitement in your group, they're going to love that throughout the week. And so maybe looking for opportunities to just make things a little bit more of an adventure and a little bit more excitement would be one way to go about doing that in your cabin, creating a sense of cohesiveness and teamwork. There's value in that for them. For those of you working with the older teens, maybe 13 to 17, um, th- they are probably going to present a little bit stronger on the outside, but on the inside, they're probably even more sensitive. They're discovering who they are, and personally, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, they're stepping into all of that and taking ownership of those different roles, and that identity of self. And we want to be careful not to cause any embarrassment at all for those children that are really coming into their own as they enter those teenage years and even moving towards finishing school. Um, we want it to be a place that they are accepted and loved and where they can belong. Um, we want them to feel confidence coming out of camp. And I know for myself that was my experience. I came to camp at 18, still feeling entering my senior year of high school and feeling a little awkward and a little unsure and still having questions about faith and spirituality and what is all of this stuff. And I remember leaving saying, like, yeah, like this is who I am and this is what I want to be about. And you can have such a powerful impact on those children. And so I just want to encourage you to be attuned to that and really be available to them. And maybe they have questions and maybe they need a listening ear um, and maybe they're gonna look at what does it mean for me to own my own faith, or what does it mean for me to possibly be moving into um, more independence. And I just encourage you to be attuned to that and how you can support them. Um, it's really important that regardless of what age level you're working with and which week of camp you're there, that you avoid taking things personal from the children, from the campers that are there. Uh, I know on my school bus, uh, there are days that the kids come out of school and they've just had a bad day, right? They just have had a bad day at school and sometimes we have really rough bus rides. And I have to respect that. I have to not take that personal and not carry that over from one day to the next, from one bus ride to the next. And I'm going to ask you to do that the same at camp, that you may have some children that have a rough start to the day, but let's not carry that throughout the day. And let's not take that stuff personally, and let's not um, take offense to something that may not be exactly what we were looking for as the adults in a situation. But let's look at those as opportunities to just encourage, to extend grace and love to that child and see how we can maybe redirect and encourage them through some hard situation. We need to recognize that sometimes children are going to go through situations of homesickness, especially those elementary campers, and we need to be prepared for that. Sometimes it may mean redirecting thought patterns or those thinking about what their parents are doing or what's going on at home, and helping them embrace the moment and understand the value of being where they are. We also want to be very intentional about not allowing children to isolate themselves or separate themselves from the rest of the group, from the rest of their cabin. Um, we all need to be looking out for that, and we all need to be pulling those children in and not letting anyone um, be off on their own. We always need to be looking at ways that we can encourage positive interactions, not just from us, but from their peers as well. How can we encourage positive interactions from child to child? Um, one of the things, silly little things that we do on my school bus is we sing happy birthday to children all the time. And I think that's a little bit unexpected, maybe that maybe growing up we didn't experience that ourselves where we got on the bus, but we create a sense of community on our bus, and we celebrate birthdays and we celebrate milestones and we celebrate each other. And I'm going to ask you to do that as well, for the children that are in your cabin or um, in your area of responsibility. Just celebrate them and create as many positive interactions as you can amongst each other and just encourage them. Um, as you are supervising the children that you're responsible for, I need you to be proactive, not passively sitting back, waiting for something to go wrong. I need you to be out there in front of that and creating the atmosphere that we're looking for. And that means for all of us to not just sit back or not just engage um, with the other adults or the other co-counselors or the other people at the craft station who we're working with. But be intentional, be present, be in the moment with those children. I know that we want to have that experience ourselves, but I think it's important that we all remember we're here for our session to allow God to use us, and regardless of who you are, if you're the spiritual life director for the week, I'm asking you to go out of your way to be present where those children are, to let them see you, not just as the person that's leading, a devotional time um, or speaking to them from up front, but a person that went swimming with them that day, or that sat and did crafts with them, that ate a meal with them. And I'm asking you all to engage as much as you can to let this be a week where you set aside all of your own stuff and you just embrace camp and you embrace those children that God has placed there for this special time for you to have an interaction with. Um, I need These are some really important um, things that I need. I need you to do a head count constantly. I need you to know where your kids are at meal times, at activity times, at free times, um, at Vesper times, at wherever. I need you to know where your kids are. I need you to keep a head count on them. I need you to be responsible. We need to know immediately if we're missing a child or if there's someone that's not where they're supposed to be. Um, a really good strategy for that would be implementing a buddy system in your camp where every child has a buddy and no one is left out, and we know because that's another layer of that safeguard where a child's going to recognize, wait a second, my buddy's not here and we're missing someone. And so just keeping um, that system there where and reinforcing that with kids. Where's your buddy? And making sure we're not missing anything uh, as far as children and losing any of the kids. And as you're doing that, I need you to think ahead as well. When we go into a craft station or we go into um, a water recreation time, what are some things that could go wrong um, when we're in the lunch line? What are some things that might be, and just be thinking about that and be proactive about heading those things off. Um, it's one of those skills that as you do this more, as you practice it, you're going to start seeing it. You're going to see, wait a second, I know that this child has a tendency to maybe not pay attention when things are being explained. And so maybe it's just a matter of going and sitting next to them and helping them pay attention during an explanation of the meal that night or of the craft station or whatever during devotional time. Maybe they just need someone to sit next to them and help them. So I want you to really just be looking out for those and be proactive and intentional about how you can be um, out in front of that. It means that we as a staff have to be present. We're asking those children to be present, and I'm asking you to be present that week. And I know we have a lot of things going on in our own lives, and I promise you I've led mission trips and camps when I've had just awful things going on in my own life. I led a youth trip to Michigan Adventures just a matter of days before my father passed away and he was in the hospital. And I needed to be present though in that moment, right? I needed to be with those teenagers. And I'm asking you while you're there to to just be present with those kids, to be intentional. Um, I'm asking you, that means to not have your phones out, to not be on your devices at all when we're with kids. There'll be times for that, and there'll be times when you can check emails if you need to, or return phone calls or do that, but don't have your devices out. Don't be on your phones. Don't be distracted. Um, don't be having side conversations with other counselors and not present with your kids. Um, I know one of the things that it's funny, I still talk to kids, years down the road, kids that haven't been on my school bus for 10 years. And I still remember their names and I still remember interactions that we had on the bus, and they're always like, "How do you remember?" And I made that a priority. I made it a priority to remember them, to remember their names, to remember their stories, to remember what they were into, to make them feel important. And I'm going to encourage you to do that as quickly as possible, to know the names of the children that you're responsible for, to maybe learn a little bit about them and to start encouraging them, um, to be attentive this week to them. And maybe you don't have to remember that child 10 years down the road, when you run into them at the local grocery store or gas station. Um, Maybe that's not the case, but for this week, I'm asking you to make them feel like they're a priority. Um, when we're involved in different activities at camp, if for any reason um, someone feels unsafe, we need to stop. We need to stop right there and figure out what's going on and why they're feeling unsafe. Um, we need to ask questions and figure out what's going on there. And we absolutely need to look beyond ourselves. If we're in a place and something's going on, contact me, contact someone that can help get involved and figure out what's going on. So if there for any reason that a child is feeling unsafe, just stop where you are, and let's figure that out and see if there's something that we need to change or do differently um, to create safety. Um, for those of you that are going to be working in the kitchens, paid or volunteer staff, we need you to understand that food safety matters. We don't want anyone coming and um, being sick or um, having any food issues at camp. Our allergies are serious. Food allergies are a big deal, and we need to respect that and take that seriously. And we need to be clean. We need to be washing our hands. We need to be cleaning up the surfaces that we're cooking on. We need to take that very serious. We need to be working together and following directions that are given so that we can get things done in a timely manner in the kitchen, but also safely. And that's a really important thing that we all understand, how to follow direction, how to be where we need to be, when we need to be there, um, and to be about our tasks when we're doing that. For those of you that are serving in the lifeguard area or the waterfront, um, that is a really key area that we need to be vigilant at all times, paying attention, not for any reason on our devices, not for any reason getting distracted by other things or side conversations. We need to be focused on those children and what's going on. We need to not be having our headphones on or our earbuds in or anything else. It needs to be all of our senses just focused, listening, um, watching, paying attention to what's going on when children are in the water. We absolutely cannot have distractions there in those water environments. Um, Make sure that we're getting the swim tests done, making sure that we're doing buddy checks, um, make sure that we're doing our lost swimmer drills, and all those rules for the waterfront. Those are not optional. Those are things that we have to do and we have to be on top of and safe about. So don't ever don't ever compromise for those of you working in that area on any of those. Um, for those of you is working with the maintenance area, um, we need to be safe. Um, and if there are anything that's a safety hazard or anything that we need to address, let me know. We'll take care of that immediately. I need to know as soon as possible. We need to be responsible when we're handling tools or any machinery. We have to be safe and intentional about all of that. And again, we're not going to have horseplay or messing around with any of that. We need to be very intentional. For those of you that are counselors and in cabins, you're the front line. You're the ones that are going to be interacting with those children. Um, you're the ones that are going to be getting them up in the morning and saying goodnight to them at the end of the day. I'll tell you, I've for over 30 years now, this will be an interesting experience for me at camp because I've always been the one in the cabin. I've always been the one that's the front line with kids, and that is tremendous responsibility that you all have. It's also a tremendous joy to see how God uses you, how God moves in the lives of those kids, and you're going to have that frontline experience maybe that people in other positions aren't going to have. And so um, be ready for that when you get there. Be ready to set everything else aside and just be present with those kids that week. Um, they're going to remember. They may not remember your name, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember the experience that they had at camp, and you maybe more than anyone else are the ones that are going to be responsible for crafting that camp experience with them. So be on top of any potential conflicts, be there to support them emotionally, encourage them, oversee behaviors within your cabin. Just be ready to man, I just keep saying it, but just to be present. Be present with those kids. Never leave the campers unattended. Um and I will just say like your oversight is so vitally important for a successful week. Um, for our spiritual leaders, I encourage you to be authentic. And I think that's the most impactful thing that you can bring um, as you're working with children is authenticity. Um, I I have had the opportunity to have a big impact over the years. For children, for teenagers, not just in ministry, but outside of that. And maybe I'll share some stories as we get to know each other better outside of training. But um, school bus driving has provided me some incredible opportunities, but it flows out of a place of being authentic. This is who I am. This is what I'm about, and uh, and seeing God use that to impact. You need to be someone that children, that teenagers, that fellow staff can approach. And I'm going to encourage you to, in everything you do at camp, to model compassion, to model love, to model safety, to model approachability. And and I'm just to encourage you to be that tone setter the week that you're there doing spiritual leadership. Um, for our program leaders, we need you to set the tone and have energy for what we're doing that week and be prepared. If you need something, let me know in advance so we are ready to go when it is activity time. We need it we need activities that everyone can be involved in, everyone can be engaged in, everyone can be excited about. And and that's on you to really just plan those and communicate ahead of time for what you need um, from the camp, from me, and to make all of that a success. Um, this section here that we're going to talk about for the next few minutes is maybe some of the most important part of this training, and that is our protection plan for children, for adults, for all of us while at Presbytery Point. Um, it is our job, whether staff, volunteers, myself, at camp, it is our job to protect campers. It's our job to protect our staff and our volunteers, and it is our job to protect the ministry of Presbytery Point. Um, and we have to take that very seriously. We have to be very intentional about how we protect adults, how we protect children. So some of the things that I need you to understand is we're going to practice two deep leadership. We are never going to be alone with a camper. We will always have someone else around. Um, that means two adults. That means an adult and multiple campers. We are never going to be alone one-on-one with a camper for no reason. We are going to have very clear and strong physical boundaries. If anything, for any reason, makes someone else feel uncomfortable, we're not going to do it. It's if it doesn't matter if we are comfortable with a hug or with a physical touch. That is not. If it makes someone else feel uncomfortable, we have to end it. That's no questions asked. We're only going to engage in side hugs. We're not going to be hugging on each other because we don't want to force someone to say no. Um, but a better idea even than that is high fives or fist bumps or um, maybe a pat on the back. But we're not going to be embracing and hugging. Um, that's just not our place. And we don't know what kind of trauma maybe someone has experienced or what kind of um, is going on in their lives. And so we're just not going to do that. We're not going to allow children to sit on our lap. And I know it sounds silly. I actually have a little girl that tries to do that on the school bus even right now. Children are going to want to do that. And it's for our safety. It's for their safety that we're not going to allow children to sit on our laps. Um, and we're not going to carry campers around either. That's just something we're not going to do. We're not going to carry them. Um, and yeah, enough said. That's something we're not going to do. Um, when it comes to private areas, in the bathrooms, in the cabins, we are not going to have phones out. We're not going to have, for any reason, a camera or anything else that may capture video or audio or images, or it's just an absolute no. We cannot do that. We have to respect the privacy of everyone at camp. Um, when we're talking with each other, um, as staff and leadership, or when we're talking to children, we need to keep everything appropriate. Um, we're not going to use any kind of off-color humor or jokes. We're not going to, we don't know who's listening, and we don't know um, what those children may be experiencing at home. And so we're not going to engage um, in anything like that. And this is a really big one. As I mentioned, I have been in some incredibly tough situations in my own life personally, while I've still had to do ministry. And one of the things I will tell you coming out of that is there are things that you have to keep personal and that you can't share. And that's just a reality. And so I'm going to ask you to avoid oversharing with your children, with your campers, with other staff members. Um, if there's some things that you need to talk to me about, I'm going to invite you to do that, but I'm going to ask you not to be oversharing too much personal information with our campers or with other staff. And it's um, really important that we not create, special relationships with campers. Um, I want you to love and care and encourage and engage with all of them, but I don't want any special relationships coming out of this that we're going to have to deal with later on. So, yeah, social media is an issue everywhere, and as a camp, we will never post anything on social media while camp is going on. Um, we don't know what's going on. There could be custody issues. There could be a lot of things. And so we will not do that. We will not be posting on social media real time. And we have to insist that none of you do either. Nothing, images of children or staffers or anyone else real time. After camp is over and you're back home, we can do that, but we can't post images of children. Um, we can't post images of our campers. Um, as a staff, we're not going to private message with with campers, with children, with anyone that was there on those terms. If you make some friendships as an adult with other staffers, that's a different story. But we're not going to private message campers, and we're not going to post pictures of children. Um, some of you, and I ran into this in my own life. Some of you may be close in age to the campers. I know when I started off in ministry, I was 19 years old and I had students in the youth program who were 18 years old. Today, they are very close friends of mine. I'm very close friends. When I was the one in charge, they were not my peers, even though we were only a year apart. And I need you to help create those boundaries and respect those. Um, that these are not your peers necessarily for this week. And just help me live within those safe boundaries. I'm going to ask you to do that for me. Um, One of the things that I've seen over the years that can be um, really harmful uh, for camp um, as a whole is when we create, I'm going to be the cool counselor, or I'm going to be this is the cool kids club, and it creates by default, by necessity. If this is the people that are in the cool kids club, then we have people that are out. We have people that are excluded. And I'm going to ask you um, to not be the cool counselor or the cool kids club or the whatever. We are not there at camp to have our own egos fed and fueled and built up. Camp is a place for us to share the love of Jesus with children. Camp is a place for us to focus on children and not ourselves that week. And so I'm going to ask you to respect that. And I know some of you, it's easy to kind of slip into that mode of being very outgoing and big personality, but I'm going to ask you to respect that and not try and foster that cool kid relationship. Um, we are going to be mandated reporters for camp. If you suspect abuse, neglect, if a child says something to you, I need to know about it immediately. I do not want you investigating a situation. I do not want you asking for more information. Um, I do not ever want you to promise that you're going to keep a secret to a child. Um, those are all outside of bounds. We're not the investigators. It is not our job to investigate a situation. It is not our job to promise secrets. It's our job to keep a child safe. And so we are going to handle anything that is reported. We will take care of that. I need to know about it, and we will report that um, to the proper authorities. And it's as simple as that. If a child says anything to you that they're dealing with at home, if a child says something to you that's made them feel uncomfortable at camp, I need to know immediately, and that just has to be the standard. There can't be any exceptions. There can't be any dealing with it alone or with yourself or thinking that something's not as important and so maybe I just won't talk about it. If there's anything that's said or done at camp that involves the safety of a child, I have to know about it immediately. And I hope you can appreciate that and understand that. Um, when we're letting campers go and they're getting picked up, campers can only be released to someone that isn't already been approved to pick them up. Um, we have to verify that this is the person that's supposed to be picking this child up. And so that matters tremendously at the end of the week that we are releasing children to the appropriate authorities. Um, if for any reason um, someone shows up to take a child that is not authorized, that someone shows up to take a child during the week that is not supposed to be there, um, I need you to stay calm, as we talked about before. Keep calm, and we'll handle the situation. I need you to keep the children away. Um, I need you to contact me immediately. And um, if it's clear that this is an escalating situation, feel free to call 911 and we will handle that with the appropriate authorities as well. But just stay calm, keep children away. We don't anticipate that ever being a situation, but if it does happen where someone is trying to pick a child up that is not authorized to do so, we will handle that appropriately. Um, if a child is getting picked up early, that should have been communicated prior to camp starting, and been approved through me and documented. So we should know before camp starts, or I should be contacted. So we will deal with that if a child picks up is needing to be picked up before camp is over. Um, I need you as counselors and as those on the front line, as well as health officers, to understand the medical procedures that are going to take place at camp and where to go, where the nurses station is, where to go for help. I need you to understand any allergies that may exist in campers in your cabin. I need you to be aware of your campers and of your children drinking water. When it gets hot outside, please be on top of that, making sure that they're staying hydrated. And if there's any signs at all of issues of dizziness or blurred vision or uh, nausea or anything that those things that are clear signs of maybe this is heat related or lack of hydration, let someone know immediately, and we will be on top of that. Um, if there's an injury for any reason, if a child is injured, I need to know about that. The health officer needs to know about that so we can take care of that, um, and be out in front of that. If you are not trained or familiar with first aid or CPR, if you haven't been certified, please don't attempt to do that. Um, we need to leave that for people that are trained, that are authorized and capable of offering aid. in those situations, and we don't want someone jumping in that doesn't understand what they're doing or isn't prepared to handle a situation. If there's an injury, we need to document it. So I need to know about any kind of injuries that take place, and and I need to document those as well. Um, Keep an eye on what your kids are eating, making sure that they're eating enough, that they're eating healthy. I know that it's going to be a temptation for kids to be away from home and maybe not want to eat the way that they should. Um, Let me know if there are concerns in that area, um, so that we can make sure kids are staying healthy and safe. Uh, both with what they're eating and they're getting enough hydration, and just please keep an eye on that for all of your campers. It's a really important area throughout the week. Um, I will reiterate again that I'm asking all of us to be intentional about modeling behavior at camp, to be to use that old analogy, the hands and feet of Jesus, to be those ones that reflect and represent Christ um, during the time at camp. Um, as we've mentioned, the waterfront area is just a non-negotiable, and it's a high risk area, and we need to be careful about everything that takes place there. And to review, that means um, being in the proper swim zones. That means the buddy system. That means, that we understand emergency signals, that rescue procedures, lost swimmer drills, that we're understanding all of those things. That is a really high risk area, and we need to be on top of that. If you're unsure, if there's clarification that's needed, if you need help, please let me know. Um, And as we've mentioned, the big thing that we can do for campers and for children is just be calm. Um, we're gonna get through. Um, we're gonna get through situations, and something may arise, but stay calm, and let's deal with the situation that in the way that it needs to be dealt with. It's important that we stay together as a cabin, and we keep all of our campers together in the same location during an emergency. And that we not lose anyone, and we not overreact to anything that's going on. Um, I want to leave you with kind of our final wrap up. I know this is a long session, and training isn't always the most fun thing, but the high points that I want you to understand is camp really matters. It really matters what you're going to do in your time at camp opens the door for God to do tremendous work in the life of a child or in the life of a teenager. And I need you to understand how important your role is, how important camp can be um, in the life of a child. As I mentioned, my journey of faith, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I didn't grow up with faith, and my real introduction to Christianity was attending youth group for a couple months before camp, and then I went away for a week of camp, and that was a life-changing experience for me, and introduced me not just to faith but this idea of even ministry, and and my 30 plus year career in youth ministry directly came out of a um out of a camp experience. And so I just want to encourage you, um be present this week and be faithful, um, and look for God to use you in your time. Kids are going to remember, they truly are, how you made them feel, how that experience at camp was. And so be intentional, be be proactive, um, make them feel safe, make them feel love, make them feel accepted, and just that kindness. Um, if you have any questions about anything at any time, please contact me. Please, prior to camp, during camp, please reach out. Please let me know. If you have any concerns while camp is going on, I need to know about them immediately. It's really important that we support each other during camp, that we're there to encourage and and value and support each other. I want all of you to know while you're serving at Presbytery Point, you are so incredibly valued that you and your service and dedication, um, truly regardless of where you are working at camp, you are the backbone of what we're doing. You are the ones that make camp possible. And so I just want to thank you. Um, I want to thank you for your service and your dedication. I want to thank you for taking the time to go through this training and and just taking the time to understand what camp is all about and your role in it. Um, I want to tell you that you're loved by God. You're so deeply loved and appreciated for all that you do and for who you are. That our presbytery owes you a debt of gratitude for your willingness to come and to serve at camp and to love children, and that I love and appreciate so much that you are willing to be a part of this. And I just look forward to spending time with you um, through the summer and through if it's just a week of session that you're there, or if you're there on staff for the entire summer. I look forward to our time together. And and with that said, I just want to leave you saying blessing on you, um, and pray that you're encouraged and looking forward to and excited about the camp and all that lies ahead. I want to remind you that there's a questionnaire at the end of this, a 10-question questionnaire that is absolutely mandatory in order to complete your training. I need you to go through and answer those questions, and I need that sent back to me completed. So, with that said, again, blessings, and I'm looking forward to our summer together.